philosophy of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the idea that machines can achieve the same kind of thought process as humans. To start, I'll start with the definition of intelligence. It's the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. So the reason that you can't just memorize your notes and then pass the test in college is because you have to be able to apply your knowledge. Otherwise, there's no intelligence needed there. Movies like I, Robot, The Matrix, shows like Westworld, all have this idea of artificial intelligence. And they explored in a very dystopian way the idea that the machines can overrun the humans because once they reach the same level as humans, what stops them from surpassing us? So there's some interesting questions that are asked here. What if? The rise of the machines, the first idea is the processing power. As of right now, computers do not have the same processing power as the human brain. I'll get to that later. But also the morality versus logic. Computers operate on logic. They're not bound by questions of morality like humans are. So, for example, in The Matrix, if the computer sees that humans harm their environment and harm each other, it only makes logical sense to encase them in their own virtual reality where they can't harm anyone and then use them as an energy source. To a computer, there's nothing logically wrong with this, but to us, we obviously know it's not moral. And then the next question is, what makes a machine intelligent? Is it the learning capacity? Do we measure their intelligence by the definition of intelligence, or is it by their ability to act like humans? The Alan Turing test says that if a computer can communicate with a human and convince that human that it's also human, then it's considered intelligent. We have a few examples of this. On some dating apps, there are bots that will communicate with you, and they have set responses no matter what you say to get you to subscribe to some website. And we also have Siri. The more you talk to her, the more intelligent she gets and is able to converse with you. But my question is, why are humans the standard for a machine's intelligence? Can it just be intelligent on its own? Does it have to reach our level to be intelligent? John Searle believes that computers can't actually understand anything, that they're just a process of commands and outputs. So in his theory, there's a man in a room and he doesn't know Chinese, but he has a book in front of him that tells him how to respond to the characters put into the room. And then he reads the rule book and then puts the correct response out. To anyone outside of the room, they say, oh, this man understands Chinese, when really he doesn't at all. He's only following rules. John Searle says this is what computers do as well. I think it's a very interesting philosophy, and it goes back to Nietzsche and the idea that we cannot create something that is intrinsically meaningful. Value holds value because we give things value. If we were able to create a consciousness, an intelligence, like what computer scientists are after, I think that it would pose two options for us. Either one, we're gods, and we can create things like ourselves, or two, there is no God, and consciousness has no meaning at all if it's something that we can make ourselves. Moore's law says, in the 70s and 80s, this came out, Moore's Law, and it was based on how fast computers are growing and how fast their processing power is growing. And he, as you can see here, and this is whenever he created this. Well, to today, it has been true. He's been correct. So by this law, by the year 2020, computers will reach the same processing power as the human brain. And I think it's very interesting, and it kind of poses a different question for us. If it can reach the level of a human brain, and then as you see, the year 2060, one computer will have the same processing power as all of humanity. Now, instead of artificial intelligence, I think that this gives us an option, futurists believe, that we will, at that point, 2020, be able to upload our brains into computers. Now, this would be a type of evolution for humanity. We would be able to go to Mars, explore other galaxies with no worry about our physical bodies. But there's also the question of how much of us is our physical form as well as our mental form. Our consciousness holds our identity, but our emotions, there's a physical response and a mental response, and we can't figure out sometimes which one came first. So, would we even still be humans after this? I obviously don't have the answers to these questions, but I think they're things that we need to ask. And I think the important thing, the reason that philosophers need to be a part of this discussion, and not just the computer scientists plunging forward. I'll quote Jurassic Park here. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. I think we need to be careful as we go forward and think about the repercussions of things like virtual reality and how it can impact us as humanity, as a species. And that concludes my talk. Does anyone have any questions?